Well, today's the day I am going to start my Trish Burr embroidery journal. I had a bit of inspiration with my fabric. I was looking through my stash and I found these old sugar sacks that were my grandmother's, and they have a very faint Rogers sugar symbol on them, which I think my grandmother tried her best to remove as best she could. But they used everything back then. It was my mom was born in 1933, and they had very, very little on the farm, and they used everything they could. And my grandmother used to make tablecloths and dish towels, all sorts of things out of these sugar sacks. And I forgot that I had them, and I am so happy that I have them. And I thought that they would be awesome for this project. So keeping in mind the limited supply of sugar sacks that I have about 6, I've decided that I'm going to reduce the size of my pages for this project. So instead of doing 14 by 10, I'm going to reduce to 12 by 9. I also want to keep this project as portable as possible. So I want to be able to take it with me and make sure that it's compact and easy to take out and work on anytime I want, anywhere I want. I can carry it in a bag or in a little project case. So I have cut a piece of my fabric here into the size that I want, my 9 by 12. And what I did is I took my template that I had drawn out of the page size, and this document is I did a scan and put it in our Google Drive folder. And so what I'm going to do now is, or what I've already done here, is I've taken a pencil and a ruler, and I have really lightly done the outline of the book. So this would be the finished size of the book. And I've added the center line as well, so I know where my seam will be for the fold of the book, the binding. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to transfer my part 1 and part 2. So part 1 is the lovely flower, and part 2 is the bee. So I'll transfer those on. So the bee will go on the left side and the flower will go on the right. And I am going to do the same lettering as Trish as well. I have done mine on the computer instead, just to auto center, and it's so much easier. So I'm going to do the My Embroidery Journal, Lisa Campbell 2020. And the font I picked is called Cavallini, and the font size is number 14. And that's in Microsoft PowerPoint. I just picked one of their stock fonts. I have my light pad on here, and I have taped the first little pattern outline to my light pad. And now I'm just going to center it here. So this one has to go to towards the bottom portion of the page. I'm doing the one on the right, and I'm just going to measure. It's about 1/2 inch from the bottom and about 1 inch on either side. And I'm just going to secure that with some tape. Now I want this to be a bit more permanent, so I'm going to use a micron pen here. This is a 005, and it's brown, it's not black, so I think it should be good to cover over when we're starting to do the stitching. I finished the first transfer, and I think that looks really good. I really like the micron. You just make sure you're careful with it because it is permanent. I happened to touch accidentally, so fortunately for me I didn't touch it on the good surface that's going to be on the seam allowance, so whew, thank goodness. So now I'm going to go ahead and start doing the same, do the transfer for part 2 as well, which is our little bee. He's quite adorable. He's quite a lot larger, and I think might be a bit easier than the flower. This was quite tricky. It's quite detailed. It's beautiful, but quite detailed. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to finish the transfer of the bee, and then I'm going to put interfacing on the back of this, and I might also run a zigzag. I was watching Amina's tutorials, and she was saying the interfacing helps quite a bit, keeping things from fraying and giving the fabric extra sturdiness when you're doing your embroidery. And that also makes your book in the end nice and firm, right? So you don't want it to be floppy. It'll have some good substance to it. I'm done transferring my bee, and I think the layout for my first 2 pages is going to be great. I'm pretty excited about my fabric choice, and I'm liking how the transfers were copied over. I think they're going to be really good. I kind of have a little bubble here, but I'm not too worried about that. I'm going to make sure that gets covered when we do the stitching. So now I'm going to put some interfacing on the back of this. I'm going to put it on some stretcher bars. I have I think they're 9 by 12. So I'll put it on the stretcher bars. And then I'm going to start kitting up, and I'm going to use one of these tiny little, from Stitch and Sylvan, we got these little thread holders, which I think will be perfect. So I can do that for both of the pages. There's quite a number of threads, so I think this will contain everything quite nicely. And here we are. I am all ready to go and start stitching on my journal. I've done the first 2 patterns and stretched them on the stretcher bars. They look really good, nice and tight, like a drum. And I have also pulled together my threads for the 2 projects. I think I'm missing 4 DMC colors. There's always one that you need. So in this case, I need 4. So I think I'm going to be placing an order here soon. I might try to kit up the next 2 as well to see if there's any other threads I'm missing. But happy stitching, everyone. I will do some posts, some updates here at some point so you can see how I'm moving along.